Hey, this is Kate from Ignorance Was Bliss. You are listening to the Odd Dad Out podcast, and normal is not my specialty either.
Beginning Odd Dad Out podcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Odd Dad Out podcast, where normal is not my specialty. I am your host, as always, the usually frazzled Adam Higgins, the Odd Dad Out. You can find me at Odd Dad Out on all the social media places and at oddadoutpodcast.com. And this is the show where I ramble and rant and empty out all the crap in my head. I make fun of some weird new shit that just needs to be made fun of. And I tell you about a podcast that I think you should listen to because I think you should listen to more podcasts. Trust me, it's good for you. How are you doing out there, dear listener? So, yeah. Hell of a week, huh? First off, I just want to say thank you to everybody who listened to last week's show. If you noticed, I literally put at the top of the show notes, hey, this is an emotional one. If this isn't what you're here for, you can skip it. And I'm just going to say a lot of people skipped it. I'll just say that. But I also received a ton of feedback and everything from last week. And so thank you to everybody who reached out and everybody I've been talking to in this last week. Quick updates, because I want to get that out of the way. So yesterday, well, should have been release day. I'll just say it. I've again, if you follow me on the social medias, you know these things. But long story short, yesterday morning, I curl up in bed after, send the older boys to my wife. They all leave, go to work, go to school. It's just me and Sam hanging out. And we're laying in my bed. He's got the laptop watching Netflix. And we're sitting there doing that. We doze off. Next thing I know, it's almost lunchtime. Which also means we basically slept the whole morning in, which is great from a sleep perspective because it means I'm actually rested for once, which is amazing. Oddly enough, believe it or not, this means I still only had maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but it's a hell of a lot more than I normally would have. But anyway, we sleep all the way up until basically lunchtime. And I realized normal people, lunch is in the afternoon. For us, it's actually mid-morning because our entire life schedule is shifted way down. It's a thing. But this is about 10:30. So we're like, okay, shit, we got to get up, go have lunch, and go eat lunch. Well, at this point, I can't put him down for a nap so that I can record the show. Because we slept all morning. He's not going to go back and lay down, and I can't expect him to. That would just be rude. So for the most part, I just couldn't do the show yesterday. It happens. But yesterday, we also, just kind of getting updates and stuff out of the way. Yesterday evening, we got the call from the vet that the ashes were in for Shelby and Emmett. And so we went and got those, and we now have them all the boxes. They're nice little cedar boxes, and we've got a paw print from Emmett, and we're looking at it, and we're like, he always had like these giant badger claws, and on that imprint they have, they're like, man, you just see his giant claws and little tufts of fur and things that got stuck in the plaster when it was done and all that sort of stuff. So we've got that, and it was a little tough, but we've got that. And so they're all home now. And so that, that is that. We're waiting on the tree for the living urn for Shelby, which should be here Friday. And then we'll move her from the little cedar box she came home into the planter urn thing. And yeah, so we'll have that. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do with the boxes with the others, with Emmett and Cheyenne, but we'll cross that road when we get there. I don't remember mentioning, we had always had kind of a plan, or I had a rule, I should say, where Rihanna was always very, she always wanted another puppy. It's like you're always looking at Humane Society and wanting to adopt another puppy, and she gets puppy fever like a lot of women get baby fever. She has zero desire to have any more kids or be pregnant again, not at all. But man, she gets puppy fever. And she was always trying to adopt a puppy and all this stuff. And I always told her, it's like, no, we're not getting another puppy. We're not getting another dog until after Emmett's gone, because I don't want to do that to him again, because the last puppy we brought into the house was Cheyenne, and he outlived her. And, he was 3 when we got her. And I've told the story before. She had cancer. We ended up having to put her to sleep. And that was about 5 years ago. And so she was only about 5, and he was 12. He outlived her by basically her entire life. And they were really good friends. And I didn't want to have, at his age, he did not need a puppy bouncing around, being crazy around and having to deal with the headache. It's just like having a baby. They're just really yippy and loud and really needy for attention, and you got to give them so much. I don't want a puppy. I really don't. And so, just because the last time we had a puppy, we've been through this. Puppies. If you've ever had a puppy or you're considering a puppy, think about it this way: every horror story you've heard about having kids is the exact same thing with a puppy, except they howl instead of cry. Babies cry. Babies are demanding. Puppies howl, and they get into shit and they destroy shit. When at the point where is what we would call babies are basically a doorstop for a few months before they're mobile at all and can roll over and crawl or any of that stuff, they basically can lay there and cry. That's all they can do. Well, at that stage for a puppy, they're running around and doing all of the stuff, and they're chewing on everything, and they're destroying shoes, and they're shredding clothes. And they're getting into the trash, and they're peeing on the carpet because they haven't learned better yet. All of those things. So you have to be hyper vigilant with a puppy. I don't have the energy for that shit. We've done all this with kids. We have older dogs. I don't want to deal with puppy issues. But again, my rule was no new dogs until after Emmett's gone. Again, we expected that to still be a few more years. Well, then we got Jasper. And Jasper, much like Cheyenne, he's about 7 now. And he has the temperament of a puppy still. He's super needy, and he has separation anxiety, stuff like that. I've talked about him before. But we realized that in the absence of Emmett, he needed a companion. Jasper needs a companion. But when the time came and everything happened, our immediate thought was, Jasper needs a companion, but we can't bring another dog into the house right now. And that was our sort of mentality. And we were thinking, okay, when the time comes, the dog will find us. We will know when the time comes when it's right for us to have another dog and get another dog. And, so funny thing is, it was really a big emotional thing, because we went from, we will find another, we'll get a puppy after Emmett's gone. And we were looking at possibly getting another boxer, because Rihanna loves boxers, and Cheyenne was a boxer, and they're just big, dopey, silly, fun dogs, and they're super lovable. They're like the most friendly, dopey, vicious, because they're labeled as a vicious dog, they're one of those boxers are one of those breeds that are on the ban lists, like pit bulls and Rottweilers. And they're not. they're super protective, but they're also big dope faces, and they run sideways, and they're dopey. That's it. There's no other word to describe boxers. Boxers, like they've been punched in the head too many times and they don't have all of their faculties together. That's what the dog is. That's the temperament of a boxer dog. But again, now we have Jasper. But there have been some rescues that have popped up, and young, like 6-month, 9-month-old dogs in need of families that we're actually thinking about. And I don't want to, I'm really bad with this. I've never gone out and acquired a dog on my own. All of our dogs have always been handed down, or parents got them and we took over them. My sister, all of our dogs so far as in my adult life, married adult family life, came from my sister. We've talked about this. All of my sister's pets are now my pets. And so I have not gone out and picked and found a dog before. I've never chosen a dog. I like dogs, but I've never gone out and I've never gone out and actually acquired a pet. Pets just come to me. My cat and cats, when I was single, it was a stray that literally ran into our apartment one morning. We just kind of adopted her that way. And that just, spiraled into, she got out, she got pregnant. Now I've got a lot more cats. Whole other story. But all of that sort of stuff. I've never actually gone out and chosen a pet. And so I don't know how to do this whole choosing a pet thing. And Rihanna wants to, she's not sure if she's ready, but she sees, because she still gets puppy fever and she still sees pictures of dogs in need of a home and things like that. And she wants to help and she wants to get a puppy, if for no other reason than she's just still got puppy fever. But it's really going to be a matter of, I told her we need to see the dog. We need to meet the dog. We need to see, is this dog going to be a good fit for us? Also, when you have another dog, you have to make sure they're going to get along. And apparently there's one that we're looking at that she found today that also has separation anxiety like Jasper. And I wonder, it's like, well, if they both have anxiety, are they going to help each other, or is this just going to compound our issue? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll try and see if we can go see her this weekend. I don't know. But that's just kind of a thing. But enough for those pet puppy animal updates. Speaking of this weekend, or last weekend, since we're still in the update section. Remember how I mentioned that my teeth were killing me and I was going to the dentist and I thoroughly expected they were ripping out a ton of teeth? Well, that didn't happen. I went to the dentist, but they didn't rip any teeth out. They went in, they did some x-rays. They immediately were like, yeah, you've got a really nasty infection that's basically from through my gums all the way up and like it's extending almost to my sinuses. And so they were like, yeah, we're not going to pull anything right now. And they gave me a crap ton of antibiotics. Like I'm taking something like 2,000 milligrams of antibiotics. I got to take these monster horse pills every 6 hours. And man, this thing, it's a good thing they're not really nasty flavor or anything. They don't taste awful. Then again, I've gotten tricks down to where you don't really taste it. But I'm taking these monster horse pills, and they actually gave me some Tylenol with codeine for the pain. And I've talked about my resistance to pain meds and my tolerance for pain. And at this point, my pain level is manageable. I'm really not taking anything for the pain. I think I took one of those one night because I forget what we had for dinner, but after dinner, because my regular standing pain had diminished, I naturally chew on my right side, and that's where all of the pain is. And so by my just naturally everything drifted and I started chewing normally. And then after dinner, my teeth were just everything lit up because of all that pressure on there. And so, yeah, I took one that night. I think it was like Sunday night after dinner. I was like, nope, I need one of these tonight. And again, the one thing of all of my resistance to pain meds, like I can take 5 Tylenol and not get an effect. Ibuprofen's the same way. Hell, morphine's the same way. It takes a lot of morphine for me to get anything out of it. That really sounds bad when you think of it. But I have a certain tolerance for pain and meds. And so the one thing that I don't have any resistance or tolerance for, and I'm actually kind of a lightweight about, is codeine. And so they give me the Tylenol with codeine. And I think I've mentioned it before. There was a point where one of my big, like, annual, I'm going to be out of work for a week sicknesses that hits me seems to be like once a winter. Past few years have been broken ribs coming from those, but those big things like that. And I remember they gave me the codeine cough syrup. And I remember taking my little cup of that. And, it takes a while for medicine to kick in. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit down, have some breakfast. I had like a plate of eggs and toast. And I at that point, I was basically stuck in bed because it hurt to breathe with what I had. And so I remember taking that, sitting there with my plate, and almost falling asleep in my plate, like falling asleep, sitting up and almost falling into my plate as I fell asleep. I was like, okay, this works fast. I'm going to lay down. And I put my plate on my side table and went to sleep. But codeine is the one thing that can knock me out. And so I was very hesitant to take these pills. Incidentally, because we didn't have any dessert stuff, and we do have like fancy creamers and stuff, we ended up having like coffee for dessert that night because we were both just kind of in sweet moods. And so we just had like some really sweet, like I've talked about the Almond Joy creamer before, where it tastes like you're drinking a candy bar. That's just it. So we have our sweet coffee dessert that night, watching American Horror Story, catching up on that, or Masked Singer, whichever one we were watching. And I was like, all right, I'm drinking enough coffee to counter the codeine right now. But I went from dozing, and then Rihanna was like, let's have coffee since we were all out of ice cream. So I made coffee, drink coffee. Okay. Countered the codeine enough. And so that was it. But yeah, that's been fun. Well, this Saturday now, I am scheduled back in first thing. Ugh. Long Fridays suck when you got to go to the dentist at 8 a.m. But I've got now this Saturday, I'm scheduled to go in and actually have 2 teeth pulled. And they're going to set up the whole plan for everything else going forward. And we're going to look into possibly having all of I mentioned it before, but having all of my upper teeth removed and have a full denture put in with implants and all of that. So that's going to be a fun thing. But, kind of setting that plan forward so that I'll eventually be able to eat. And so we'll see how that goes. Updates later. And that'll probably be one of the first updates once November starts and I'm rolling through into National Podcast Post Month, and the combination of interviews and my solo daily spiels and ramblings. And I'll probably be doing a lot of these where it's the emptying my brain portion of stuff, and I'll have days of news, and I'll have days of recommendations. And I'm going to see if throughout the month, if I can grab some more interviews to do. But I'm going to basically be peppering out the interviews that I've already done, which I need to edit. I need to edit. And I still need to put together next week's show with Kate from Ignorance Was Bliss. So much I've got to do. So much editing. But it's going to be fun. But all that work, it's going to be fun. So we'll do that. And once we get there, we'll get there. But yeah, thinking about it is making me like, ugh, it's just, it's a task. It is a task. And I'm going to try the 30 interviews thing next year. But right now, just thinking about the amount of work I have ahead of me for the interviews I have is going to be tedious. And so I don't, I don't envy me right now, just with what I think I've got eight or 10 interviews to edit. So it's going to be fun. And they're long. It's long recordings because I don't shut up, like, I've got this, one case, a 3-hour conversation that I've got to make something usable out of, make something digestible, because I'm not about to release a 3-hour conversation. And a lot of it just us rambling and bullshitting. And so I've got to do that. And so that's all on my plate right now, along with work stuff, along with tooth stuff and dental stuff and kids and winter concerts coming up. And oh yeah, it's almost November and Thanksgiving's going to be coming up and Halloween is coming up next week and so much crazy. And it's just so much to do and think about and all the stuff. And so, yeah. But as part of hey, let's just keep the creepy rolling because it's October and next week is Halloween and this is the last episode before Halloween. This is the last normal episode. The last normal episode before Halloween. So I'm going to play a bunch of creepy promos or somewhat Halloween related promos. And I'll be right back with the news.
What up? This is Dina Marie, the host of the Twisted Philly podcast.
There's more mischief, mayhem, and nefarious goings-on in the city of brotherly love than Billy Penn could have ever imagined. We've got it all here on the Twisted Philly podcast. True crime, haunted history, the coolest and creepiest places to visit. Welcome to Twisted Philly.
You don't have to be from Philadelphia or Pennsylvania for that matter to get into this show. You just need to like some seriously weird, twisted shit. Plus, listening to me gush about the places I love to go, the history I love to tell, and the really sick, twisted crimes we've had going on here since back in the Victorian era. So come sit a spell with me in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. You can find me on iTunes and all the other major podcast apps.
A little bit of horror, thrillers, and everything nice? Oh, sorry, I most definitely did not mean nice. I'm Natalie, and I'm the host of A Girl and Her Horror, where I review a horror movie or show in 5 minutes or less. From The Haunting of Hill House to Us, foreign and American, classic and innovative, I'll be covering them all. Look for A Girl and Her Horror on your favorite podcast player. There will be spoilers. I hope you're not afraid of the dark.
Bullshit from the news.
All right. Remember, links to all the stories are in the show notes at odddadoutpodcast.com. I feel like I need to disclose that because nowadays there's so much shit with people being accused of plagiarism and non-disclosing shit. And you know what? Even whether I say it or not, the links are there. Just saying. If I talk about news, the links are in the show notes. It's on the website. Go look at it. Consider shit disclosed. All right. First up. I'm just going to say it. Kellogg's and Glad have gotten together, like Glad as in the GLADD. I'm now blanking on what it fucking stands for. I'm sorry to all of the gay and lesbian and all of the LGBTQ community. I'm blanking what the fuck Glad stands for. I'm sure somebody's going to yell at me. But anyway, they are getting together to release All Together cereal with the big purple box and rainbow lettering. And it is the gayest fucking cereal box you've ever seen. And the problem with it is that it's a big lot of bullshit. So the PR on this and the marketing on this are like, oh, hey, we're releasing this special limited edition all together cereal, bringing together all of your favorites in one box. And on the cover, you've got Tony the Tiger and Toucan Sam and Snap Crackle Pop and the fucking chicken from Cornflakes that I'm blanking his name. I know he's got a name. I'm just forgetting it. You got the Sun from the Raisin Bran and all of these guys. And the box implies that this is one cereal, and everything else implies this is one box of cereal with all of these cereals. So Corn Flakes, Frosted Flakes, Rice Krispies, Fruit Loops, and Raisin Bran. Let's just say there's a lot of flakes in this. Yeah, Corn Flakes, Frosted Flakes, and Bran Flakes. That's a lot of shit. Oh, and Frosted Mini Wheats. The Frosted Mini Wheat guy is on the box. I think looks like Tony the Tiger is holding the Mini Wheat. They're all together in one cereal. The problem is, that's a big fat lie. Because what this actually is a ridiculously overpriced variety pack. Because the big purple cereal box with all of the bright gay lettering is just a big purple box with a bunch of little boxes of cereal in it for you to mix yourself. So, did I mention this is $20 for a box of cereal? I don't care what the fuck is in it, because that's too much for cereal. But the fact of it is, this is one it's one regular size cereal box with 6 little boxes in it. So it's basically just a variety pack. And you know what? A variety pack of 8 boxes costs about $5. So the fuck you say? You're way overpaying. And the whole deal is Kellogg's is saying they're going to donate $50,000 to GLAAD, which all things considered, that's not like a day of cereal sales. I feel like this is a big PR bullshit smokescreen. There's a big purple rainbow fog over everybody who buys the bullshit that this has anything to do with supporting GLAAD or anything like that. Because let's be fair, Kellogg's could donate a fuckload more than 50 grand to GLAAD if they really cared. And they're just saying, hey, we're going to donate $50,000 to GLAAD. Not, we're going to donate 10% of, or we're going to donate $10 from every box sold to GLAAD. No, it's, we're going to make this big gay cereal, which isn't at all. We're going to make this big gay cereal box variety pack. We're going to charge you 4 times the going rate for the cereal. Oh yeah, there's less in that than there is in the regular variety pack, by the way. We're going to give you this overpriced cereal box that you're probably not going to open because collector's item or some shit. And then we're just going to give $50,000 to GLAAD, regardless of how much cereal we sell. But, you know, it's just, it's a big bunch of marketing bullshit because of the fact that there's no disclosure. It's not, the amount they're donating has no relation to the cereal box. They're just making the cereal box and saying, hey, look at us. We're being inclusive. We're bringing everybody together. No, you're not. You're making a fucking nasty ass fucking cereal for one. I bet anybody who does open this up and try to put these together, or just go buy the variety pack and do it yourself, it'll cost $5 instead of 20, and you'll get more cereal. It's going to taste like shit. Because let's run this down again. You have regular Corn Flakes, Frosted Flakes. Okay, that's fine. Raisin Bran. Fruit Loops. Frosted Mini Wheats. And Rice Krispies. This does not sound good at all. These flavors do not all play well together. The only thing that could have made this worse is if they threw in like fucking Cocoa Puffs or Cocoa Pebbles or whatever the fuck. I'm trying to think of a chocolate cereal on the Kellogg's brand, and I'm blanking Kellogg's cereals right now, but it doesn't matter because this is going to be shit. Do not, whatever you do not mix this up yourself. It's going to taste bad. Oh, and then I think the most offensive thing is the Rice Krispies and the Raisin Bran. And I don't mean offensive like, oh my God, I'm offended. I mean offensive like, that's bad. This is going to not work. Rice Krispies turn to glue, basically. And Raisin Bran is a completely different type of flavor profile to all of the other cereals here. Everything else, basically, you got to pull half of these out. The Corn Flakes, the Frosted Flakes, fine. You put milk on Frosted Flakes, they turn into Corn Flakes. Fine. You can accept that. And even maybe if you want to spruce it up, the Fruit Loops don't hurt that. But the Raisin Bran, you're adding raisins to this entire equation, and the fact that the bran flakes are a whole other sort of bitterness and they don't mesh well with cornflakes. This isn't going to be good. And again, Rice Krispies turn to glue. And oh yeah, Frosted Mini Wheats. This is going to be the nastiest, messiest bowl. Whatever asshole in PR department came up with this needs to be slapped upside the head. Because this is just going to be fucking bad. And again, overpriced variety pack, bad marketing bullshit. Yeah. Bad. Okay. Enough bitching about a really... Oh, I fuck Kellogg's. Ugh. Calming down. Moving right along. Let's get out of the cereal land. And well, what do you do after cereal? You go to school, right? Right, you do. No, you shouldn't. If you're listening to me, you shouldn't be in school. You should be an adult. Explicit tag and all that jazz. Well, a high school in St. Louis has canceled their entire football season because the coaches were playing fast and loose with the identities of players. And no, this isn't like, some sort of illegal immigrant thing or anything like that. No. Although you totally sit there and draw parallels, I guess, if you wanted to be that kind of person. But basically, they were taking ineligible students and students with suspended playtime, like, oh, hey, this kid's suspended for 3 games because he did this thing. Whatever. Like, rules say this kid can't play for 3 games. Well, the coaches were going around like, okay, Johnny... Fuck, I'm terrible with just making up names. Have you figured that out yet? Okay, Johnny. Well, Johnny Manziel. Fuck it. You're Johnny Manziel. You're suspended for 2 games. So you're going to suit up as Tim Johansson. And instead of being number 4, you're going to enter the game as number 24. And instead of being a junior, you're a freshman. And nobody's going to ask, why is this freshman starting? And man, that freshman just, did like 200 yards or whatever. I don't fucking know. I don't know sports. But they're like, and so basically one of the school officials caught them, basically. They're like, hey, that guy's not supposed to be on field. He's suspended. Why is he in the wrong jersey? Why is he in the wrong number? He's listed as being a freshman. No, that's a junior, and he's suspended because of some shit he pulled last year in a game. And so they figured it out, and they were like, oh, the coaches have been doing this with suspended players and ineligible players who, like, their grades weren't up or whatever. They'd give them a different name on the roster. They'd give them a different number. They'd play under an assumed identity so that they could still win. And they just stick these players in because they didn't want to lose their star players or whatever, because, standard protocol in football, chances are the star players are failing. Most of the star players are ineligible. We knew that when I was in high school. It was a running gag with our chief competition. We knew that most of the kids on the other team, my high school football team, like most of our rival teams, players were ineligible, and they eventually got in trouble for doctoring grades. Doesn't that all, they were like, oh yeah, you ever notice how as soon as football season's over, all those kids start failing? That was the deal. Anyway, this is basically what was going on. The coaches were fudging students so that they could play. Well, they decided, you know what? We've got a problem with the team. Season's canceled. Oh yeah, the entire coaching staff, you're all fired because you're when it comes to like school sports and stuff, the state oversight of school sports basically means things like this actually end up being illegal. It basically ends up constituting fraud because, schools are state funded and state funding and sports and things, and you end up breaking the law. And so they're like, fuck all you guys, are fired. Get the fuck out of here. It's just a game. Speaking of, it's just a game. It's not that important. Make better decisions. A TV station in Dallas got in a lot of trouble last week when they decided to stick with the Cowboys game instead of airing tornado alerts. That's right. Tornado alerts. An entire wave of tornadoes hitting the area and fucking tornado alerts and warnings and shit going off. And they did not cut away from the football game to notify people that there were tornadoes on the ground. On the ground. What the fuck? It's just a game. And guess what? Dallas sucks. I don't know football, but I know the fucking Cowboys suck dog balls. Maybe that's just because I don't like football and I was never too big on Dallas Cowboys to begin with. But my understanding is this year they really fucking suck. Either way, it's a fucking game. It is fucking football. The tornado is more important, you fucking asshats. And they issued an apology. And it was poor judgment. Blah, blah, blah. No, you're a bunch of fucking idiots. It's just a fucking football game. It's not that fucking important. I'm willing to bet if there was like a commercial break or something that happened in the middle of it, oh man, that'd have been great. Oh, we couldn't lose the ad revenue. We couldn't cut away from the broadcast. Like, yeah, you can. It's an emergency. Emergency alert system interrupts everything. 6 minutes they aired before they commercial break. Like, you fucking idiots. Some people probably lost their homes because you didn't get, I think nobody was hurt. I don't know. I don't follow the weather in Dallas. I just follow stupid shit news. And this was stupid shit because fucking people in Dallas. I'm surprised because as much as Texans worship football is church in Texas. But they were actually pissed. Maybe that's because the Cowboys suck and it didn't matter that much. I don't know. My one Cowboys fan is getting really pissed right now. I don't know. All right. Enough of those assholes. Let's get the Halloween spirit in full effect with the Jackass of the Week. Now, this one's a little unconventional. This is a group jackass. And this goes to several places that basically there are towns now who are making it illegal for you to trick or treat if you're over a certain age. Yeah. What the fuck? I have never had a lapse in trick or treating. And I've said this before. I went from trick or treating as a kid to trick or treating as a teenager, taking my little brothers out, to trick or treating as an adult, still had a younger brother and would still take my little brother out, to eventually having my own kids. I never stopped trick-or-treating. I think last year was the first time. I don't remember if I dressed up last year or not, but still, I went out. I still go out. And yeah, now I'm going out with my kids and I'm not necessarily collecting candy, but I was collecting my own candy probably until I was 19. Really. And I honestly, I think even older. I think I was out trick-or-treating with my little brothers, and still like, hey, I'd dress up with them and we'd all go out trick-or-treating until I was in my 20s, basically until I got married. And then after I got married, then we were taking kids out. But yeah, I never stopped trick-or-treating. Again, I trick-or-treated myself until I was basically up until I hit 20. So what the hell? Now they're saying, oh, if you're over 12, you can be put in jail for 6 months and fined for trick-or-treating. That is just some straight up bullshit. I don't care what the fuck you want to do. You're going to make it illegal to trick or treat over a certain age? What the hell kind of asshole city councils are you guys? And there's more than one. It's not one place. There are tons of cities across the country that are doing this shit. Like, no, let them, whoever, if you want to fucking trick or treat, go out and fucking trick or treat. Because that is some bullshit no matter how you slice it. Trick or treating is fun. It's just fun. You know, and yeah, there are asshole kids who go out there, and there's asshole teenagers who go out there and they're vandals and they do shit. But you know what? When you get a bunch of teenagers who were just having a good time and want to go trick or treating and walk around the neighborhood, hey, you got a bunch of kids that are walking. It's 2019. You realize how rarely kids walk anywhere nowadays? Just saying. But everybody got together. It's positive. Everyone's getting together, having a fun time. And as long as they're not the asshole kids who are being destructive, what's the problem? Like, oh, I want to give candy to those teenagers. I'm like, why? Why not? They're not hurting anything. What's the fucking problem? Because you know what? If I showed up to your house at 34 in costume, I want a fucking candy bar. I put in the work. I walked all my happy ass from my house all the way to your house. I smiled at you, you bitch. I want my fucking candy bar. I don't want the cops called on me. Because I'm too old for trick-or-treating. There's no such fucking thing as too old for trick-or-treating. And that is it. And anybody, any city, any town, whoever the fuck, anywhere in the country or the world who tries to pass a stupid fucking law saying you are too old for trick-or-treating can kiss my ass. I'm going to calm down. Calming down. Going to take a drink of coffee. Gonna play another promo, and I'll be right back with a reason to worry about those kids that are going to be knocking on your door on Halloween with this week's recommended feature, Murderous Minors, Killer Kids.
It is written, the meek shall inherit the earth, but not on my watch. I am King Asilas. I wasn't born to be a king, but America needed something democracy could no longer give her. And so, like a chess master, I made my moves with anticipation and bravado. This is not just my story, nor simply about my rise to power. This is a story about our world and the monsters that control governments. What happens when the monsters cannot control me? The Rise of King Asilas. Listen on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. Visit theriseofkingasilas.com.
Recommended listening.
This is Murderous Minors, Killer Kids, bringing you the frightening and truly insane tales of children with the thirst to kill. Kindergarten through 12th grade murderers. True stories thoroughly researched. Join us weekly for new tales of parents' worst nightmares on Murderous Minors, Killer Kids.
Murderous Minors, Killer Kids is a true crime podcast with what has to be the most disturbing focus of any show I've ever heard of, because it's all about kids. And no, it's not about all these cases of where kids were, went psycho and serial killer kids and things like that. But those are some of them. some of them are just cases where something happened, kids, like whatever. It's hard to just detach yourself from the idea of it's killer kids, period. It is basically, and it's not just, a 5-year-old who strangled her sister or whatever. It's also, again, K through 12. So it's also, a lot of them are high school students. And so you'll get those 17-year-olds who go crazy or get into drugs and do something really stupid. And, that sort of stuff. But fuck, just the idea that there are enough murders and deaths caused by minors that she has managed to put an entire show together around the subject. Mildly disturbing. Also disturbing, she did basically a month of stories focused on Arizona because she's local to me. She actually, War Baby, the host, actually basically much like the guys from BSP, Believer Skeptic podcast, lives on the other side of Phoenix from me. We're all in different suburbs of Phoenix, but yeah, she's over on the east side. And so it was painfully obvious when she did those Arizona focused stories because a lot of them were right in her area. And she got very detailed into the region and the makeup of, the history of the different communities that things involved, and very much setting the stage when talking about, they went from this location to this location, and the girlfriend lived here and he lived here and they went to school here. And she got really in depth into that stuff. So it was very funny listening to that, knowing all those locations. It's like, hey, I know where Gold Canyon is. I know where Mesa and Chandler and Gold Canyon and this and this and this. Like, I know all these places. So it's funny listening to that stuff. But I don't listen to true crime. I've said this 100 times. But there are a handful of shows that I do listen to that do classify as true crime. Twisted Philly. She has some of a sort of a true crime element. I don't listen to it as much anymore because it is the entire show is focused on Philly. So, but there's a true crime element there. Sometimes, ignorance was bliss. Sometimes she's gotten much further away from the true criminess. Sometimes she still kind of dips back into that pool. But this is the only 100% true crime show that I listen to. And again, this is a case of I started listening to the show because she's a local to me. I really like supporting local Phoenix, Arizona area podcasters. And so I listen to a lot of shows from local people, and there's a lot of great shows. And it's like, even though true crime isn't really my thing, and when you think about it, niching down to something like kids is got to just be the worst possible stuff. This is the stuff that will give you nightmares. And it's not particularly gruesome all the time. Now, she does get into the details. She will. She talks about, she doesn't skate over some of the more difficult things that happen when, a kid chops up their parents with an axe or something like that. She doesn't skip those details, but she doesn't linger on them because, and it's kind of a trope of the true crime genre as a whole, as what Kate from Ignorance Was Bliss will describe as a murder porn, where they want all of the gore and all of the, like, how much were the entrails spread across the crime scene and how much blood was everywhere and all that. That's not necessary to convey the story. And for the most part, War Baby keeps that stuff in check. Especially when you're talking about kids, and very frequently you're talking about their parents or grandparents or siblings. A lot of the time in these stories, it's a kid who killed their parents or their guardians or whoever. These are sensitive stories, and she gives them the due respect and doesn't get too hung up on the gruesome, gory parts of it. you start to learn more about these situations and all of the crazy that goes on. And there's a lot of trying to understand the motivation in there too, of okay, so this was going on at home and this is going on, and we don't quite know why this kid snapped that way. And so as much as the idea of a kid potentially being a serial killer, and there have been some of those stories, but those things are just terrifying, completely terrifying. But they're a lot easier to listen to for me because of the way she delivers the story and the way she tells the story. And I've said this before about Moxie from Your Brain on Facts. When Moxie is just talking, her voice is different than Moxie reading and Moxie delivering. And with War Baby, I've heard her on other things, her normal speaking tone, very natural. Her delivery on the show almost sterilizes some of the story. She doesn't get crazy emotional or crazy, like some of, again, it's a trope of the true crime thing, and almost the you'd say it's a stereotype of true crime podcast where it's hosted by two, housewives who are sitting there drinking wine, talking about murder. That is the trope of the true crime podcast. Well, and then you get, and a lot of them, and why I don't listen to a lot of true crime is because a lot of it is that, and a lot of it is oh my God. And then he just like beat her with the axe so many times. And it's like, no. And a lot, and again, it's a lot of the, oh my God, and a lot of the housewifiness and the, all of that crap, and the tone of it is a lot of that. And it's not all of it, but it's a lot of very popular shows that are of that vein, where they're laughing through these horrific stories. And maybe they're laughing as a self-defense mechanism because, oh my God, that's so fucked up. This whole thing is so fucked up. And they kind of laugh through the story, and probably also because they've been drinking for hours by the time they get to it. But still, when I listen to War Baby tell these stories, she keeps this shit flat. And I mean this in the best way possible. She is so dead monotone telling these stories that you just focus on the story and what's happening, and you absorb the details of it. And you don't get caught up in her delivery. Her delivery allows you the ability to absorb the story and understand the situation and all the circumstances and all of the details of everything that happened. And she goes into a lot of detail. She really does dig deep on these stories, and it's kind of crazy. But this is the one full-blown true crime podcast that I listen to. And again, I started because she's a local and I could literally meet her. I could drive across town and meet her and whatever, go to the monthly Phoenix podcasters meetup or something like that. I could do that. But I just haven't because, introverts and so long drive and stuff like that. But I still listen to the show. Even though under any other circumstance, I wouldn't be listening to a strictly true crime show like this, but I do. And I listen to her because of the way she does this show. And again, it's kids. And that is probably the most disturbing category of true crime you could ever imagine existing. Just thinking about kids killing kids and killing parents and killing random fucking people because, man, again, there were kid serial killers. But I can listen to her. I can listen to this show. And that is something that I would not have thought. Again, I've tried listening to true crime shows because I tried listening to the popular stuff and I didn't like them. I just didn't. But I can listen to War Baby. And so if you are at all into the true crime thing, you need to check out Murderous Minors Killer Kids. You can find it in all of the regular podcast places, which you know how to find because you're listening to me right now. And of course, as always, links in the show notes and on the recommended listening page at oddadoutpodcast.com. But that is going to do it for me this week. Man, that went on a lot longer than I thought it would. Thank you again for putting up with me and all of my crazy and all of my emotional breakdowny stuff. Again, links to all the stuff I've talked about and all of the recommended listening features and past episodes and all of that, links to subscribe to the show, all of the things you can find at oddadoutpodcast.com. While you're there, you can do all of the things. You can subscribe, you can donate to the show, like my awesome Patreon supporters, Heather, Lisa and Sam, Chris, and Kate. You guys are awesome, and if you want to support the show too, you can go to the support tab at oddadoutpodcast.com. There's lots of stuff there. There's Patreon, there's the Buy Me a Coffee, there's a PayPal link, lots of things, or you can just buy yourself a hoodie or a shirt or all of the things. I know I'm rambling, but join the Oddballs Facebook group and interact with other weirdo people that put up with my crap every week too. And until next week, my oddballs, thank you and good night.